Hey everybody, on today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you the secrets of the #1 eXp agent in Oklahoma. Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Kevin Scoggin. I want to welcome you to today's video, the secrets of the #1 eXp agent in Oklahoma. I'm so excited to introduce you to Robin Wilson. So I want to take a moment here to give you just a little background before we jump into the conversation. So I recently switched brokerages over to eXp, and one of the things we get being an agent at eXp is a bi-monthly newsletter from our broker team, and on that newsletter is our monthly top producers. And as a new agent, of course, I'm checking out who the competition is and seeing who's on that list. And I consistently see this agent's name, Robin Wilson, just dominating. Now, mind you, we have over 600 eXp agents in Oklahoma, so I'm impressed. I'm like, who the heck is this Robin Wilson lady? Well, sure enough, about 2 weeks later, she ends up representing the buyer for one of my multifamily listings. And so I got to work with her, got to know her. It was a great transaction. She's an incredible agent. And I asked her, I said, Robin, will you please sit down with me so that I can pick your brain and learn your secrets, your habits, your mindsets for how you are succeeding in real estate at such a high level. And I'm so excited for you guys to meet Robin Wilson in this conversation. Well, Robin, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be on the show here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
For our listeners and viewers, will you give us just kind of a brief bio of who you are and just an overview of, your business and how long you've been selling real estate?
Okay. My name is Robin Wilson. I'm based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's my primary territory. I am one of the few agents that cover both the Oklahoma City and Edmond metro area, as well as the Tulsa market. Prior to real estate, I had an executive career in the healthcare business. I owned some retail healthcare clinics also, so I've always been entrepreneurial. I always wanted to go into real estate, but being a single mom, I really needed to have the security of a salary. Looking back on that, a very big mistake. So wish I would have done it a lot earlier for sure. So
okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show. So for just a little background for our viewers and our listeners here. So I'm newer to eXp. I joined just a couple months ago, and we get, these, I think they're bi-monthly broker newsletters. And so I'm, new eXp agent, I'm reading through, and there's kind of like a leaderboard on the right-hand side of these. And so I kept seeing Robin Wilson, like #1 in production, #1 in units sold. And I'm thinking like, who is this Robin Wilson lady? She is crushing it. And then sure enough, like 2 months later, you represent the buyer on one of my multifamily listings. And so it was like, we got connected out of the blue, and it's been really fun. The transaction's been like slightly bumpy, but overall it's been great. And
it's actually pretty smooth compared
yes.
to
For sure.
I feel like it's gone smoothly. So
yeah, well, and you've been great to work with. But I was just so thankful that we were connected, because I thought, man, I want to learn from the #1 eXp agent. I think we have a little over 600 agents in Oklahoma, or 650 or something like that. So to be the #1 agent is no small feat. And so I'm really excited to learn from you. And I think the first thing I want to ask you is, if you had to put your finger on one thing, I know there's a lot of things, but one thing that you feel like has led to that level of success, #1, over 600 agents. I mean, what would you say it is?
Responsiveness.
Responsiveness. Okay. Unpack that for me a little bit.
One compliment. So
okay.
I respond quickly to my clients. I do things differently that other people cannot do because I'm in a different phase in my life. I don't have children at home. I don't have grandchildren at home. So it's just me. So if I don't have anything to do, or I'm not doing anything, which is most of the time because I work all the time, I am already still looking for other deals on the computer or what have you. And so when I receive a lead or a text from one of my clients, I respond. I've picked up clients at midnight before. So I work very long hours.
Okay.
And some people don't like to be contacted that late. But to me, if they are awake then they're open for, a conversation. So responsiveness, definitely. And that goes a lot of different ways. You've got to respond if you're listening to your clients, then you're responding to a variety of things and maybe meeting their concerns and addressing those concerns head on. Responsiveness in getting things scheduled in a timely fashion and making sure that they understand the timelines that we have to move through. It's really just responsiveness to everything, whether it's them personally, they're having a birthday or their child's having a birthday or something like that, just being engaged with them and where they are.
I love that. Super kind of simple in a lot of ways, but really powerful. And I think it's easy to overlook. I don't know about you, but I remember being a new agent and I would look at the top producers, whether it was in my office or in my market, and just think, I was almost like mystified by their success, thinking like, how, my first probably 10 clients were all buyers, right? And I'm thinking like, how do agents get listings? How do you go on a listing? It just felt so mystified by other agents' success. And so now I realize, or I'm convinced that it really comes down to mindset. I think average agents are average because of how they think. I think top producers are top producers because of how they think and believe. So are there any specific kind of mindsets? I think responsiveness is a mindset. I think that's an attitude. Are there any other mindsets or ways that you approach your business that you feel like have directly set you apart in a, among over 600 agents?
Yes. So one thing that we branded through our companies was a concept of relationship first. And that goes hand in hand with real estate being a fiduciary for our clients and making sure that we're looking out for their best interests and not your own, et cetera. So if you put the client at the forefront, which goes back to the responsiveness, that's really what it is. The customer comes first. Knowing how to really engage with them. We're going to have some challenging clients. And if you don't respond accordingly, then a whole deal can get blown up. But that relationship first has definitely followed me all the way through for many, many years, probably since I was young. I just didn't know how to brand it yet. So I'm definitely a service-oriented individual. I'm often told I go above and beyond. And so what does above and beyond look like? It looks like the little older man that's single who has sold his home, who accidentally took the refrigerator when the refrigerator was supposed to stay. We had the movers lined up, and then when they go to do the walkthrough, we find out that the refrigerator has been loaded. So you call your husband and his brother before you go to dinner, and you stop by on the way to dinner and unload the truck and get the refrigerator out, put it back, get it loaded back up. And then we also have to find him a place to live. He started looking through the newspaper. I know that was hilarious. My chin dropped when he's like, well, I got the newspaper and I see that there's a house for sale in there. And I'm like, no. And he was on a very, very, very limited budget. I mean, he was a small transaction, which we all start with. And in Oklahoma, if you are looking to be, just a primary luxury agent, you're going to starve. You don't have that many luxury homes, although 400,000 and above are considered luxury homes in Oklahoma, but that's where your volume is. So this guy, I think I sold the duplex for like $160,000, and he was also going to sell it to a wholesaler, and he was going to get hosed on it. So he backed out of that, and I said, I think I can sell it to you for you better, right? Some more money. And then we ended up finding him this little house because he has no retirement or anything. So this money in this house was all he had, and we've got to conserve it. So we found him a little bitty house for like $60,000 in Haskell, Oklahoma. But I was like, put your newspaper away. I'm going to come and pick you up. And I just took it in my heart. I wasn't going to make any good money on that. I wasted a lot of gas, wear and tear on my car and things like that. But I think if you do to others and realize that we are all going to be in that position at some point. You hope that you will have children that will help you through those years, but not all of us have that, and for a variety of reasons. So I've always been that person that really takes care of little children and older people, the most vulnerable. So going above and beyond that, I'm also a cancer survivor, and I'm very open about that. A lot of people are very private. They don't know how people are going to respond to it. So I just tell my story. And then you wouldn't believe the number of conversations that have opened up about these people who are going through the same thing, either as a caretaker or as a patient. And I've actually been on both sides of that, because my ex-husband was diagnosed and had leukemia at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So it's been 4 years. So we get to see it from both perspectives. And so you're able to kind of bond and take them off their heels, if you will. So I can have some candid conversations with real life without offending them. So I had a client who had a brain tumor, and they were moving here to be closer, and he was terminal. He wasn't going to make it. And they started going down the road of maybe we should build a house. And I'm like, and let's go rent some houses. So I went and FaceTimed the houses, and you know what rentals are like. They're awful.
For sure.
And so I just had the candid conversation about, look, you're going to have to drive an hour and a half to Oklahoma City. And the last thing you want to be doing is worrying about picking out carpet and tile and everything that goes along with the build. And then meanwhile, he's making another move, because now you've got to live in this ugly little dirty rental home. And is that how you want to spend the last months that you have? And he most likely won't make it through the build process. And she's like, you're absolutely right. So then we went back to the drawing board, and she ended up buying a house that I had showed her before, but hadn't shown her in person, but she ruled it out because it had 5 bedrooms, and they didn't need 5 bedrooms, even though the square footage was the same. So she ended up buying that through FaceTime, because we'd seen so many houses. She trusted me. She knew I was going to be just straight up and honest with her on the condition of the home. And then we got it bought. And then when it came time to move, we went through the house and we put signs on the wall where each, piece of furniture was supposed to be in which room. And then they boxed accordingly. And I met the movers there and let them in, and I stayed, and they're like, what are you doing? Are you staying? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, most realtors just open the door and, let us in, and we're all on our own. And I'm like, no, I'm going to stay because that's my clients' belongings. And then I went and got the movers lunch and wanted to keep them going. So they wrote me the nicest letter afterwards. And, it's those things, being human and connecting with them where they are, really just, it's so rewarding. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. And I think it's inspiring. I think, it's tempting, I think at times, and easy to view these things for us, because this is our world, right, as transactions. And I love what you're saying is, like, for you, it's people first, it's relationship first. And I think my guess is you probably get a lot of referrals because of how because you're leading that way. And I think when clients feel like a transaction, they're probably less likely to refer us. And so but that requires us to go above and beyond. And so I think it's such good advice, and it's such a good reminder, for our clients. These are big purchases. And for us, it's like, oh, it's another contract, it's another TR, it's another inspection, but these are big things for our clients. And so I think that's just a good reminder of be human, connect with them.
Yeah, because that's where they're going to remember you. If it's just a transaction, they're not going to remember you. And it's interesting when you sell several of the houses and 2 or 3 of the same people have used you, and they're like, one person had a horrible experience, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. So So you start getting referrals from people,
Yes.
from them because of people that had a bad experience. So, and sometimes you're going to have that transaction that it is hard to make a good experience out of it. But if you can just keep yourself together, keep a smile on your face, listen to what they say, address the objectives professionally with empathy, then usually you can smooth over most everything. So, but some people are just crazy.
Totally.
And it doesn't matter. You're gonna have those, and at some point you should not be abused. I have had a few of people that I got through the transaction, but I told them I won't be working with you to find another home. Just not. So sometimes the best deal you walk away from, or the best deal you make, is the one that you walk away from. I actually had to let another potential buyer go just in this last month because he was going to be a build process. And I was like, there's no way I can deal with this guy for 9 months.
Yeah, 10 months, 9 months. Oh my gosh.
30 to 60 days and get through it and grit your teeth. But you do have to realize, what are you subjecting yourself to? If that person is so difficult, and if when they get in your car, they've already got 3 nightmare stories about other agents, you've got to really ask yourself, how am I going to be different? And then you spend the weekend, you spend a lot of time with them thinking, okay, they understand you're different. And then really they're the ones that have the problem.
Right.
And then you realize, okay, it's not just you, because he's got horror stories about anyone else that he's interacted with, some of which are people that I know.
Right.
And I know that they're nice people and competent realtors. So you do have to go, this would be a nice check, but 9 months of being beaten up or, emails and texts over and over and saying the same thing 10 times over. So at some point there will be something that you do have to walk away from.
Yeah. I think that's good. It's like self-respect, right? And I think for new agents to even because I think when we're new, it's like we have to work with everyone, right? But I think that's really important for agents to get that it's okay to respect yourself enough to, there's been a few clients just like you that I've had to lovingly part with. And because sometimes stuff is out of your control, right? Like sometimes we do drop the ball and we have to take responsibility. And then sometimes it's like, hey, this is just not working and it's not on my end, Any particular, you've shared so much so far, but any particular habits or routines? I think responsiveness is a habit. I think going above and beyond is a habit, but any other like habits or routines that you feel like have been really critical for your success?
Well, I go to the gym every morning.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's big.
I mean, well, it gets your day started. To me, that's my time that just really allows me to take on more stress during the day by getting that workout in. That is not something that everyone can do, but that's just, it works for me. I am just one of those people. I've often said I don't have a comfort zone. So I'm internally motivated to a point of almost dysfunction. So we should point that out. I often tell people, anybody that joins my team, I don't expect you to work like I do, because I will work 7 days a week, 10 to 14, 15 hours a day, and not think anything about it. It takes a toll after several years when you do that. But when you love what you're doing, it's not like working at a factory for 14 hours a day, welding or doing something very, very manually physical, or programming computers and writing code, something like that, or surgery. So to me, this is fun.
Right.
And then the only stressful points of it are when you have personalities that are difficult. So, but I've always been that person. I'm always a goal setter. So when I went into real estate, very quickly I found out I do not want to do any HUD properties. That was my very first one. And I said, never again. It was a $25,000 transaction.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And I
like
had
a what, $200 commission check, and I'm sure it was a nightmare.
yes, and you have to collect all the wet signatures and
Oh
you
my
have to mail everything in and wait. I mean, it was the worst thing ever.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and so, but I remember starting and everyone was still into the, oh, well, you've got to come in and sit in the office. You've got to contact all your friends and family. You've got to work these expired and released listings. And I'm like, no, there's got to be a better way, right? There got to be a better way to do this. And so I didn't buy off on that. And I was fortunate enough that I was financially in a position that I could invest in my business. So that's that's a different challenge for someone that doesn't have that ability to be able to launch that. But I never bought into that mindset of this is how you have to do it, because that's why it takes you 5 years to build your business. So I started out my first year I did I want to say I sold 6 million or so my first full year. And then I started saying, okay, well, I would set my goals not by the dollar volume, but the number of transactions. If I could just close one deal a month, that would equate to this dollar, right? Sure. And then it was like, next year I'm going to do 10 million, or I want to do 2 a month or whatever. And my ultimate goal was if I could do 1 a week. And then I'm like, well, how much can I do by myself? Right? Because I don't know how to say no. So I just kept doubling, what I was doing. So my first full year was 6 million. The next year in 2018, I made the top 100 agents in Tulsa. Whoa. So that was huge. And that was, I want to say that would have been 6. I want to say almost 12 million that year.
Okay. And so double.
Yeah. And, I mean, my trajectory was just crazy. And so the next year was almost 15 million. And then the next year, so that would have been 18, 19. And then in 20 this is 21.
Right.
So last year in 20 was almost 30 million.
Holy smokes. How many units was that? Do you know?
I want to say like 74 or 7, right around in that. And
it's
then
like more than a closing a week.
Exactly. And that's when you start really figuring it out. And then this year I've hit just under 30 million again. So I think 30, because I'm like, okay, well, I think I've done as many transactions that one person can handle. So how do you grow your business? You got to increase your price point, right? So that was a lot of it, but that just is, I'm always a goal setter. But now I'm at a point that I'm like, there's only so much one person can do. So you do have to be able to delegate, and you have to be able to, put your faith into other young people. So you got to find that shining star. You're like, oh, and one of my lenders, my very favorite lender, he's like, they use me as an example when they go looking for other agents. So we're going to go on the road together, and I'm going to look for eXp agents.
There you go.
For realtors to look. So I'm like, well, if you're going to use me, then why not use me? Can I go? Are they agents that are eXp agents, or are they agents that are just anyone? They said, oh, just anyone. But just like I just said, I found a better way to launch to the top very, very quickly. And eXp is the same better way. Whenever you start paying in tons of money to the brick and mortar concept, and I don't use an office, I don't use an admin, I don't use any of those resources, and to continue to pay out the money that you're paying out, you're like, there's got to be a better way. And then you find eXp. So I'm always looking for more efficiencies, better ways to connect with people, and answering the phone. Just answer.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Such a basic thing. You said so many things there that is so good. I want to point out two things that you said without saying it. And the first thing, I think I see a lot of self-awareness in you. And I think knowing your season, you mentioned kind of early on, like, hey, I don't have kids at home, right? Like I have a, wife and young kids at home, right? So my season isn't the 10-hour work days, but I'm with you. I love it too. And it's hard not to, right? But it's knowing your season. And then the other thing you said that I think is so good, and I wish someone had told me sooner, is build it how you want it, right? You said, hey, I didn't buy into that traditional way of building my business. I built my business the way I wanted to. And I think that's so important. I had a lender tell me that, again, a couple of years ago, and I wish he had told me sooner. I was driving every week an hour and a half for an open house. And he was like, hey, you don't have to do that, right? You can build it how you want it. And so anyway, I just appreciate you walking us through that. I think there's so many nuggets there that are super helpful. Any particular like books or resources that you've come across in your time as an agent that you feel like have been meaningful for you?
Not as an agent, because I'm way, way too busy to stop. But some of my favorite are anything with Wayne Dyer, the erroneous zones, and it's basically how to not let people pull your purse strings, if you will, and how to respond and engage. He's great audiobooks, everything about him. His voice is nice and his message is simple, and it's something that everyone can take and process and easily put yourself into a situation that he is giving an example and go, okay, this is how I could have handled that better. There's another book, Good to Great, is awesome. That's more from an organizational standpoint, and how to take a good company and make it great. But you can apply those same principles to any business of any size, whether you're a person of one or a person of 1,000. You can still apply those principles, and a very easy read. Awesome. And for real estate agents, I was actually a recruiter when I got out of college, and one of the very best books, and it's still available, it's the 60-Second Interview by, I think, Robin Lawrence. And Robin is her first name. It might not be a correct last name, but that book is such an easy read, and it teaches you to identify the traits in you that are powerful and to put a spill together in 60 seconds or less, so that you're not just running on to people for 30 minutes about yourself. Why should, everyone asks, why should I hire you?
Right. Totally.
You should be able to say that in 30 seconds or 60 seconds or less. So that's and people don't think about that.
Right.
You got to fine tune your presentation on who you are, because every client you meet, you're interviewing for a job. So that's why that book is applicable.
No, it's so good. I think the question that I get asked that used to really trip me up is people will say, well, how's the market? And so I learned early on, okay, if I'm going to get asked that question 10 times a week, I need to have a response, like a more intelligent answer than it's great. It's like, it's great. I don't, so I think that's really powerful. Yeah. What do you say when people learn you're in real estate? Why should I hire you? How's the market? These are such great openers to you potentially picking up a client if you know how to respond, if you know how to handle it.
Right. And something else is when you're a brand new agent, you can't act like you're a new agent. You have to have some confidence, and you have to be able to somehow take this scenario, and even though it's your very first house, but you have to elude confidence. You have to, whether you practice at home, walking through your own home, saying this, here's the master ensuite or the primary ensuite, however you want to say it. But you've got to have that confidence, a nice handshake and a good smile, just connecting with them face to face and not be scared. And it's okay to say, I'm a new agent. Everybody's got to start somewhere. But, you
don't
can't
act like it.
Yeah, don't act like it.
Yes.
And there are some people that do it very well, and some people that don't do it well after 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not new, but they still don't have the confidence.
Yeah. No,
And that's a delicate balance, because you don't want to come across as arrogant or aggressive. Assertive and confident. Those are totally different things that I believe people misconstrue or don't really realize the difference. There's subtle differences, but there's definitely difference.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Two more questions for you. These are always my favorite kind of questions to ask and learn the answer to. So my first question for you is, for someone watching or listening that they're either a newer agent or they are just struggling to get momentum, what would be like one, I mean, you shared so much advice, but what would be one piece of advice to that person that is just, they're frustrated, they're stuck, they're like me as a new agent, mystified by people's success in this industry? What would be maybe one piece of advice that you would give them?
If they're new and struggling, then if they're struggling because they don't have the finances and the resources to get those leads into their circle, then they need to find a good team to be on that will generate some of those leads. They're going to give up a good portion, but you're going to learn the lingo. Find somebody that's willing to invest in you, to let you just ride with them every day for a month if you need to. And if you've got an appointment in between now and then carve out that time. But there's a lot that you will pick up from someone by driving in their car with them while they are taking a call, and you are hearing them and how they respond to those things. Once you get off the phone, then you can go into detail about what brought it to that and start learning. So the first 30 days, find somebody really who will mentor you, that needs an assistant, somebody that they don't have 30 other people they're trying to mentor, somebody that's highly effective, that has more business than what they need, but they can't say no. So that they need somebody that they can give, and start on the little ones. Start on the $100,000 ones or $150,000 ones, because you can mess up and you can say things, and a lot of times that client will not know.
Right.
But as you move up that food chain, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to sell that $1 million house. Well, that buyer most of the time is a lot more difficult, and it's a lot more difficult.
Much savvier.
A totally different sell than the person. You will get there, but find someone that will put some time into you. That's
so good. Yep. No, I had a great mentor, and I wouldn't be where I am today without a mentor. So I think that's so good. My last question for you: if you could go back, knowing what you know now, to you as a brand new agent, so 4.5, 5 years ago, what would you tell yourself? Again, having all the experience, all of the battle scars that you have, what would you tell Robin Wilson, who's had her real estate license for 1 month?
You got a bright career ahead of you. And, when I bring on new agents, when I see that shining star, I will tell them. I mentioned my lender who uses me as an example, but we went to our Christmas party with them, and I haven't been able to attend the last two because I've been so busy. So I had a new agent that I was mentoring. I had two, and I set them up with him to go learn about. That's another great thing for a new agent. Find a great lender that will spend some time with you, and they are not all created equally. That will spend some time with you and teach you about the different loans and the ins and outs, because my lender tells me I am like no other agent, because he said 99% of them do not understand the way that I understand the financing component. Now, maybe that's because the way my brain works. Maybe it's because of my positions I've held before. By no means am I a CPA. I am not. I barely made it. I had to go through business math to avoid algebra. So, But when it comes to retirement or my budget and just making a penny go a long way, I've got that down. But he was like, what are you going to do? We're just trying to find more robins.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah, I think I found one. And both of us pointed to Ashley. We said, there she is, because she is Johnny on the spot and she's articulate. And I'm like, are you sure you're new? She is going, and I'll tell you, you are going to have a great career. But even that day between the two, they came out and said, wow, she's sharp. And the other one, I was like, oh, you're probably going to struggle a little bit. And this is not for everyone. This is a tough business. You got to be on your game every day. You can't be sleeping in until 10 o'clock in the morning and get off at 4. You're never going to be successful with that. So if you realize that that's not you, then cut your losses and find something that is you, because this is a tough business. So that's just it. If I see somebody that you can tell they're going to be great, then tell them that.
Totally.
And there's just going to be others that, they just struggle. And I think people have unrealistic expectations on what the job is.
Right.
So before I got licensed, I'd owned 3 or 4 houses, and I was always trying to do it without an agent. I'm like, why do I need to pay all that money?
What do they do?
Yeah, exactly. What do they do? Oh, they're going to sit down and put some names up. We're going to fill out a paper. Oh my God. The stuff that comes with it. Now I'm like, I'm kind of bad for
right.
Oh my attitude. Gosh. I mean, after all, what do you guys do? You come schedule some inspections. So it's looking back, I would not do anything differently other than I wasted a lot of money on a lot of calls that you get about, all these leads and this is what we're going to do with you. So now I have a spreadsheet of don't use these because they're trash.
Right.
Google the company, because a lot of the companies they do business under the same name or under different names. And so look for their reviews from other agents. So I wasted a lot of money finding out what doesn't work. Make yourself a spreadsheet. So now when people call and I'm like, okay, and who are you with? And I don't know if I should say this online. We'll say ABC Marketing Company. Right. I'm like, oh, no. But different. We've revamped. No. So, when you find something that works, stick with it. But you have to invest in yourself if you want to be successful.
No, I really appreciate you sharing that. It is a tough industry, but I think even just sharing, hey, your future's bright. I think we're so blessed to be a part of this. There are so few industries. One year, a couple of years ago, my income in 1 year, I increased by 150,000. And I just thought, how many industries can you just give yourself $150,000 raise, right? Most people maybe they get a $5,000 raise. And I just thought, I remember after that year, just thinking like, oh my gosh, we are so blessed. It is hard. I mean, it's incredible. I can't remember the last time I had a sick day, right? I'm laying in bed, working, writing contracts or whatever. So there's definitely like a hard side to that, but we're so blessed. And I think for those watching and listening, take Robin's advice. If you're willing to roll up your sleeves, work, be responsive, show up, be professional, then there's no limit to what we can do as agents. And I just think we're in the best industry because of that reason. So
I agree. It's really good or really bad, but right now we're really good.
Yes.
Also, I hear a lot of agents that they'll like, everybody wants to know, is it a good time to sell during Christmas or during the holidays, during the winter? And I'm like, yeah, people still buy. If you look at it, then maybe you don't have as much competition because other people aren't listing. So maybe you get a better price for your house. But for me, I stay busy all year round. Totally. And I hear of these people that take off from October to March. And I'm like, aren't you bored?
I know.
Bored. And that's half your year, right? Yeah. So, I think you got to work just like anything else. If you were going to the doctor and you were choosing a doctor and your doctor took off from October until March, you're probably not going to choose that doctor. So,
totally.
Yeah. So, Yeah, it's a great industry. It's been a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
and I don't see myself retiring. Means. My son sent me this little funny emoji, or maybe not an emoji, but like it was a cartoon, and it had a pretty photo of the realtor's face. And it says, here's the realtor's business card. Here's the realtor in person. And she's like aged by 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the
So
other,
true.
I didn't put my photo on my card. I always thought that was the cheesiest thing ever. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But then people are like, but they don't know who you're looking for. And
Yeah.
also it makes you look, whether you're friendly or, people are drawn to different things. Now, granted, you might also get a few weirdos out there
Right.
that, are like, I've got my share of those. But yeah, to anyone, male or female, if you get a weird feeling and something tells you something's wrong, follow your gut or take someone with you.
So good. No, that's important. I think it's really good. Well, Robin, I cannot thank you enough for I know that I've learned a lot, and I think it's so fun to just hear the journey of a top producer and realize that it's really not that mystical. It's rolling up your sleeves every day and showing up as a professional. And I think if you do that long enough, you're going to see the fruit of it. And so thanks so much for just being an open book and sharing with us.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
All right, everybody. Well, there you have it. I hope that you enjoyed this conversation. I hope that you took some notes and that it's helpful and a blessing to you in your business. Hey, for more information, resources, and to learn how you can partner with me, just head on over to kevinscoggin.com.